Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, your host on hour number 2 on this 27th day of February, Wednesday. Weeks flying by. Wednesday. Joining me now, of course, Dex from PulseScan72 on YouTube. He's hanging out with us this hour as well. We're going to bring on Greg Mannarino here as well in just a second. I do want to invite everybody. We have about 80 people in the chat room right now. If you want to join them, wideawakenews.com. Click on the microphone and you will be in chat. I'm telling you right now, we are going to be talking about markets, the financial situation we're in, the manipulation of the markets, the manipulation of our financial system. I guarantee you this hour is going to be spent on that topic. So if you have questions on that subject, get into the chat room and we'll do our best to answer them. All right. So what I want to do is, Greg, let me bring you up first and talk a little bit about sequester. I just put out a video about it, and where I alluded to the fact in the video that it's $82 billion. It's not that it's $82 billion that's the big deal. It's the continued practice of governed by crisis that is troubling to me. Greg Mannarino, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. I'm really happy to be here.
You're exhausted, aren't you, buddy?
I'm always working. I never stop. It's absolutely incredible. Yes, I agree 100% with you. It's absurd. It's an absursion, if that's a word. That
I think it is now. You just made it.
That just keeps going on forever, like everything else across the board. I almost don't even know where to begin. First of all, I agree with you. This is just a fraction of the budget. They're making such a big deal about it. The way they're doing it, I don't know if I agree or disagree. I just think we need to cut something. And you know, maybe this is the best place to start. I really don't know. We all understand that the problem involving debt is incredible, and it really can't stop. It's something that I've been over so many times, and this is why the powers that be are really trying to everything they can in their power to stop cuts of any kind. You have to understand, I think people don't get this, is, again, and you and I have spoken about this before, this model, if you want to call it that, this economic model that we have, is solely based around the acquisition of debt, period. If we admit we can't take on any more debt, or if they try to cut anything, well, you know what, there's a crisis. So that's why they're scrambling right now. People don't understand the way this works. This system is designed to create debtors, not wealth, on a macro scale involving the entire country, and on a micro scale, the people too. That's why people in the United States are so indebted. They live paycheck to paycheck. They can't get ahead. Again, this is the system by design. So this is the big hype that's going on now. Again, if we admit we can't take on any more debts, we got to start cutting things. Well, then the crisis will ensue soon after.
So you think this is all being done to keep the debt machine rolling?
Oh,
I mean, is that?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. The debt machine is going to accelerate until we hit a critical mass. We're very close to it now. When we hit that critical mass, Charlie, that's it. Party over. Currency crisis, debt crisis, the likes of which has never been seen before. They're hyping up this Dow 14,000. How did it get there? It's hyperinflated because Ben has allowed institutional investors to speculate with this in the market. Who benefits? Did the people benefit from this? Absolutely not. No. So this
and it is interesting, you know. And Dex and I were talking about this the last hour as well. You know, Dow 14,000 points. From what? From what? I mean, what did we do it by creating jobs? Because we've lost millions and millions of jobs. Have we done it? I mean, you know. The only thing we could point to as far as Main Street is the millions and millions of people who are on long-term unemployment benefits, or you know, the 20 million we've added in the last 4.5, 5 years to the food stamp rolls. So, you know, as Dex called it, you know, it's a smokescreen. The markets and the indices are a smokescreen to what's happening in the real economy.
100%. And I always say this, base it against GDP and unemployment. The last time we were at Dow 14,000, unemployment was half what it is right now, and GDP was twice what it is right now. Forget any other metric. This is an illusion. It's a smokescreen, just like you said. It's designed to keep the people's perception in check. They need people to believe that the Dow and the S&P are economic indicators. They are not economic indicators. But people are being force fed that, and to
Yeah.
believe that's the truth. It's just absolutely incredibly insane. And so many other things are going on as well. But seriously, I think that they realize that there's a serious issue here regarding people are starting to yell, saying we got to cut something. But now our policymakers, those that are on the other side, are saying, no, we can't cut anything. We need to keep spending. We need to keep crushing us all with a debt burden that is going to stifle us to the point of ridiculousness. And that's where we are now.
No doubt. Dex, let me introduce you to Greg Mannarino. Dex, this is Greg. Greg, this is Dex Pulse Scan 72.
Hello,
Nice to
Dex.
meet you, Greg. Nice to meet you, my friend.
Nice to meet you, too.
You're hearing his analysis of sequester. I'm pretty sure you agree 100% with what he's got to say on it.
No, not at all. Greg has lost his mind. No, sorry, no.
That's a fact.
I agree. No, he hit the nail on the head, and I think that's what they've really been practicing for. That's why they're buying all the guns and the ammo and the bullets and preparing for a martial law type scenario without having to actually declare martial law. What they see more so happening is just a gradual breakdown of our society because of hopelessness and starvation. And so what they see is terrorism type activities, what they will define it as, because people are starving. So rather than just, stealing a loaf of bread, they're going to come in, guns blazing and, do the Watts riots all over again. That's the kind of scenario that the government is playing in their mind is what's going to happen. And I think that we are going to start seeing more and more of those type things happening. We've already gotten a taste of it already. What are we seeing? We're seeing flash mobs pop up all over the United States, especially here in my tri-state area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. Maryland was plagued with it a year ago, where these teenagers, hordes and hundreds of teenagers would bum rush like a 7-Eleven and just bum rush it all at once, snatching stuff, grabbing stuff, and then running out. And we never had that before. We're starting to see that now. So more and more, we're seeing a breakdown of society. What else are we seeing as a result of the stress of this off the books type of austerity that we're seeing in our United States? Well, we're seeing that people are starting to act insane. This whole zombie thing that was happening, that they tried to blame on bath salts, that had nothing to do with bath salts. It was just people losing their mind, and they're doing ridiculous things. There's a guy on YouTube, goes by the name Craft Nation. He has some of the most outrageous stories that he posts every day on YouTube, to the point where it makes you think this has to be actors and actresses. This has to be fake news to try to stir people up, because it makes you think it can't be that many people out there that are insane, doing the most incredible things. I don't know a time in my life hearing this kind of activity on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, Greg, I think this is a prime example. I mean, just like we use the indices for a smokescreen, we're certainly not getting the news from the so-called mainstream media. Matter of fact, wait till tomorrow, and if we do cross the 14 whatever threshold to get to an all-time high, the media is going to celebrate this. There won't be any news of the increased violence in Chicago, or the decimation of the economy, or the decimation of livelihoods in the South, or the ghost towns in the Midwest. It'll all be this happy joy feeling. But it's like you said, if you compare the Dow Jones to real indicators such as GDP or unemployment, we're in really horrible fiscal shape. Hold your answer on that. I hear the music playing. We're going to take our first break of this last hour. We're going to be back with Greg Mannarino and Dex and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hang tight. All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. We got a conversation going on here during the break. Pretty interesting. Let's get back into it. Greg, I'm looking at your last couple of videos that went out here. One's about the bond market, a bubble going to burst there. What do you see happening? I made a comment on the air last night and tonight and in a few chat rooms that there's no way, I will shut down the site, the YouTube channel, the radio program. We're not getting through 2013 without seeing some kind of financial mess, similar, if not worse, than what we saw in 2008. What's your take?
I think we're starting to see it unfold right now, and it's very easy. The mainstream media outlets right now are spinning these rising gasoline prices as to a supply and demand issue. That's not the case. We're starting to see inflation. I went food shopping today, me and my wife, and we almost fell over when we got the bill.
And you're in, and let me point out there, but you're in Vegas, right?
I'm in Vegas.
You're in Vegas, decimated by the housing sector. So, go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, you have Bernanke who's got his blinders on, just like he did prior to the crash of 2008 when he was asked about a bubble in housing. He obviously has no foresight. He can't see this coming. But you see, I don't think he's that stupid. I'm going to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, in today's video, I called him a puppet. Bernanke is a puppet of the powers that be. And he's their spokesperson. And he can move the markets. I mean, look what he did today. He promised he was going to print into oblivion, and the market decided to, take a leg up from that. But this is a setup. I sincerely believe that the sequester is not priced into the market. In my opinion, we're going into sequester. As a matter of fact, I hope we're going into sequester because we got to cut something, although we talked about that. The problem is that they need to keep acquiring debt, but something's got to give here. And with regard to 2013, I think this is, we got a lot of headwinds facing us. I also believe the Fed is going to increase its QE. Right now it's $85 billion a month. I would not be surprised if we start to see this rise, 125 billion. I think a United States debt downgrade is imminent. If that happens, he's going to step up and have to take up the slack. Is it
going to be a downgrade because of sequester? I mean, see, I agree with you that the 82 billion, the very minuscule 2.4% of the budget cut we're talking about, isn't a big deal at all. I mean, it's not even enough, really, as far as what I would like to see as far as, deep cuts in our out-of-control corporate-owned government. But it is enough to use as a crisis so we can, keep the printing, keep the notion that the only way we can sustain a fledgling recovery or sustain status quo is to keep going further and further into debt. I do believe all these events, and it isn't just sequester. I mean, it was debt ceiling before that. It was fiscal cliff before that. It was debt ceiling once again before this. Shut down the government before that. We're being led down this path of governed by crisis, which is always ending in one thing. Forget all the hours of all the left and right BS. It's all 100% about debt. And it would be one thing if the debt was benefiting the people of the country, but it's absolutely not. So do you see, if the sequester comes to pass, I think it could be used as a tool to implement a little bit of reality of where we're at and strengthen the position of the power elite as the masters over this nation, using debt as the tool. So this could usher in, it could be just another speed bump crisis, or it could be a real crisis that's unleashed. Debt downgrade, markets freak out, and then we start seeing the massive job losses and things like that behind it.
Well, this is going to play in together. We also have an administration which can't get a budget. They can't pass a budget. Why? Because once they pass a budget, again, it comes back to the debt problem. They say, okay, this is the budget. This is what we're going to stick to. And they can't do that. They realize that they cannot give any type of an inclination that the United States needs to be on a budget or that we can't borrow in perpetuity. That's where we're at now. So, and this is a critical time. I mean, the United States is over 100% mortgaged, meaning our GDP. Yeah, we know what this means. So they want to push us deeper and deeper into debt. Want every person to remain a debtor in this country forever, not be able to get ahead. This is the system. we knew this was coming for a very long time. Once we adopted this debt-based economic model, it has a finite life. We've seen this throughout history, and we're at the end now. And that's why the governments of the world are so desperate and why they're running their printing presses. And I've been saying they're printing cash like it's going out of style because it is going out of style. And there is going to be a new system backed by commodity, gold, weighted, or something like that, because that's the only thing that has proven to work throughout time.
And there's no secret that central banks around the world have been acquiring gold hand over fist, knowing full well that
with what? With the money they print out of thin air. It's a conflict of interest, isn't it? It's a conflict of interest. It's a Ponzi scheme, and it's a conflict of interest of epic proportions.
No doubt about it. Create fiat currency, put the tab on the people, and with it, scoop up hard assets. And it's and I've said this before in the program. I said it last night with W.A.N. I don't want a gold-backed currency, silver-backed currency, commodities-backed currency if it's the same jokers running it. If it's the same central bankers that are controlling that currency as well, and the commodities that back it.
That makes sense. That does make sense. But I think that and I've been going back to this. I think that the Chinese are getting ready for this. They've been setting themselves up for a very, very long time. They're watching the United States make gross error after gross error. And they're sitting back and laughing, watching everything that we do wrong. And they're going to be the first, in my opinion, to really implement a backed currency. They want the world's reserve. They're going to get it. What does that mean for the U.S. dollar? Well, the U.S. dollar is done. It's losing its reserve status. We're starting to see inflation, and Bernanke is printing and printing and printing. Very, very dangerous situation.
No doubt about it. And I don't know. I guess we're not having a break. Usually it kicks in about 27 after. Gary, what's going on? No break? I'm thinking no break. Dex, are you with us still?
I'm still here.
You heard the analysis here. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be interesting because people are going to be scratching their heads wondering how is the Dow continuing to rally and how is the dollar continuing to rally along with it, and why is gold and silver still being smacked into the dust. And I think that's what you're going to continue to see. And like tomorrow, we got GDP numbers coming out, we got retail earnings coming out, and all I see is another day like today in the equity markets. I see the Dow being up another 200. As a matter of fact, we are in danger of taking out this week's highs tomorrow. I see us rallying until Friday. And then based on what happens Friday, we may have a small little pullback on some profit taking, but we might rally all day Friday as well. There's going to be no stop to this. This is not a normal market scenario. This is a Ben Bernanke rally. It's a Ben Bernanke Fed-fueled market. I don't care though. Just like I didn't care in 07 and 08, even though I knew what was happening with the oil prices. I don't care what the reason is. If the market's going up and it's a bull market with power behind it, I have no choice but to get long. When the train stops and the market wants to turn, then I will get short, just like I've been doing all week long. I made money on the long side when we had that crash on Monday. Now go figure. And I've been standing aside since Monday. I've been flat since Monday. But yes, I've been pimping it the way it's supposed to be pimped. And that's all you can do. I put my sheet out before the markets open, on a daily basis from my Black Ops room that they can testify if they're in there. They can tell you what the sheet's been doing. The good thing about having a system is that even though you can't execute the trades, I had 2 sick kids I was dealing with this week. The system's still going. It's still long and short, which is great. So bottom line, we're going to see new all-time highs in the equity markets. I don't think we've seen the high yet. We're going to continue to rally for the foreseeable future, and probably up until the end of the year. And you're going to see the economy collapse as equity prices rally. And then whenever you get a pullback like we did earlier this week in the equities, you'll see the dollar get smoking. My price projections for the US dollar, if this trend continues, by the year end, we should be around 90, about 90 cents.
Greg, what are you thinking? Is that, I mean,
You
I
know,
do see I mean, I can understand the theory of complete disconnect between the markets and the economy, but
oh, that's it. That's
I
stupid.
think, yeah, but I see. I mean, I certainly think there's a finite time this can continue. I mean, you can cover over 50 million people on food stamps. You can cover over millions and millions unemployed. You can cover over people, murdering each other in the street, crime going out of control, less ability to buy and pay for law enforcement. You can cover over a lot of sin with optimistic propaganda. But I mean, isn't there a tipping point? And maybe it's not even in the U.S., but isn't there a tipping point where this thing's just going to bust loose and it's going to be, Katie bar the door. There's going to be no turning back.
The tipping point, in my opinion, is going to be the bond bubble. We're in the debt as a whole is in a bubble. I think that investors are getting sick and tired of holding on to, if you want to call it an asset, that they're losing money with, and we're seeing cracks in this now. They're going to continue to fuel this, and it can go on for a little while. But at one point, the investors are going to go running for the hills. Ben has no way to unload his balance sheet. No one's going to want to buy these bonds to contract the money supply. So we are going to have in my vision in my brain, which I don't know, maybe it's a little off the wall, but once we see the bond market burst, we're going to see a rapid rising in interest rates, and that is going to put an enormous amount of pressure on equities, which will rapidly sell off. And all this money does not go into money heaven. It will go into commodities, in my opinion, and that's where we're going to see the free market once again take over. What is the job of the free market? It has one job, and that is to determine fair market value, something that has been stolen away from it. Status post-crash of 2008 with quantitative easing into oblivion, but the day of reckoning is coming. I'm certain of it.
I don't see a bond market bubble though. I don't see a bond market bubble, and I don't see a pop. And the reason being is because the Fed has their hand on that market. They're not allowing the prices to go up or down. There's nothing that you can do in that market when the Fed is controlling and manipulating it and not hiding it. I mean, it's a fact, and he says it when he testifies. I'm buying bonds. I'm the one that's in here trading this market.
Oh, of course, but
So
of course, yeah, that makes sense to a certain degree. But at one point, no matter how much they buy, I mean, even Bill Gross, PIMCO, comes out calling the debt a supernova. The bond market is debt, period. That's what it is. The debt is in a bubble. Global debt is in a bubble, and it's going to burst. We cannot keep acquiring debt like this. It's going to stop. And no matter see, this is the problem. At one point, in my opinion, when the bond bubble bursts, what's the Fed going to do? Print more money? It's not going to matter, because at that point we're going to have a crisis of currency, and the dollar value will plummet along with the debt. And again, that's where people are going to start seeking out real assets, hard assets, gold, silver, crude oil. I think we're going to see massive amounts of inflation. We're already starting to see it now. A little bit of it, and with gasoline prices, the price of groceries and everything, we're starting to see this happen right now. And yes, there is a complete disconnect between the markets and what's really going on with the economy in the United States. And again, they need to keep this illusion going, and they're going to keep fueling it with more and more money printed out of thin air into oblivion, literally, because they're not going to stop until we have a crisis. We're starting to see that crisis unfold now. We realize what's going on here in Europe. They have a debt crisis. Why? Because they've admitted they can't acquire any more debt. Period.
That's right.
Same thing's going to happen here.
bond market can't burst when the Fed is the only person playing in the market. What is it going to do? Burst on itself? It can't happen because the Fed's not going to liquidate. All the Fed would do is buy more.
Yeah, but there are many. But the Fed is not the only one holding this debt. The debt is being held by countries all over the world. Right now, they're the only ones buying the debt. Absolutely, because
the
people
Fed is the largest. Is our largest creditor is the Federal Reserve.
Yes, they are at this time.
Anybody, the Fed is who we are owned by. We are slaves to the Fed, and the bond market bursts only when the Fed stops operating in that market and allows free market forces to prevail. The only reason why we ain't seen the price go down now is because the Fed is the big buyer. You remove that big
People have
buyer,
fear.
everybody will start selling.
Well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
wait a minute. What about wait a minute? What about other players though? I mean, there's nations that hold trillions of dollars of our
Exactly.
debt.
Okay,
Exactly.
let me tell you how it's going to go down.
Okay,
Okay, the Fed is the elephant in the room. All right.
they are now. They're the only buy 95%
No,
right now.
hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me
Okay.
out. Okay. The bond market is unlike the equity market. With the equity markets, all I have to do is point and click my mouse, and now I'm long Apple or I'm short Apple. The bond market is different. You got to get on the phone. You got to find someone to do these swaps and stuff with, and your trading partners and all this. The Fed can't make big moves without the whole world knowing about it. And once they smell or hint that the Fed ain't buying, everybody and their mother's looking for the exit and selling. Are you kidding me? You talking
No,
about?
okay. So what happened? What happens if we get into what is already being described as a currency war? I mean, this is even coming out in the mainstream now, and we have nations like China with over $1 trillion of this debt. That nation alone could call in that debt, and if nothing else, it's got to spark the interest rate on that debt. If a nation like China is losing confidence in that investment, and I don't think it takes more than a half a point for the realization that this is all a con game to come to pass. But that's just one nation. You talk about the European nations, you talk about Japan, these bigger economies that hold trillions of dollars of our debt. They can't be, the Fed being all powerful. I agree with you, but I'm saying there's outside factors that can certainly affect the bond rate that we see now. That all these central banks are playing nice to maintain, but it's thin ice, is it not?
No, I'll give you a good.
Then we can keep doing this forever.
Yeah.
Why not?
Let me paint your picture, Charlie. All right, and then you will understand. Okay, Charlie, you are a Siamese Corsican twin. All right, your
All right.
Siamese,
All right.
your
Okay.
Siamese Corsican twin owes you $1 trillion.
Right.
You're sick and tired of waiting for your $1 trillion. You want to call in the loan. He doesn't pay you. Are you going to shoot your Corsican twin brother in the head?
No. I'm going to say no because I think that's
Why not?
Because it'll kill me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
if China pulls the plug, they're gone. They're done.
That ain't true, brother. That is not true. I'll tell you what.
Let me tell
China's
you why
already
that's
pulling
true.
the plug.
No, let
China's
me
already pulling
tell
the
you
plug.
why it's true. Let me listen up. Y'all might learn something. Let me tell you something. Just like Fire Marshal Bill used to say. Let me show you something. All right, here we go. The reason being is because you're forgetting something. Yes, China has all the money. All right, I got you. Here we go. You forgot something, though. They have all the money, but they can't eat. They don't have no food. So if they pull the plug on us and call in any kind of liens and debts, our dollar crashes. Now, the cost of that corn, wheat, and soybean that they need to import just went to the moon. I don't care how much money you got. At the end of the day, if you can't eat, nothing else matters. You can't eat.
No, but this
You
comes.
got all the money, but you can't eat.
Hold on, Dex. Let Greg get a word in here.
No. But you see, but this is not the way this is unfolding. We have to understand several things that are going on here. We here in the United States we've maxed out our credit card. And what is the Fed doing? They're adding more debt to this and more with the devaluing the currency. They're monetizing the debt. This cannot go on forever. And those outside the Fed that are holding U.S. debt are going to get sick of holding it. And not only this, not just the bonds, but the debt, and I'm referring to the bills. When people start to realize that the United States dollar is losing its reserve status, it's going to start coming to light soon, I think, in the mainstream media, because they can't keep avoiding this. And let's say individuals around the world, not just governments that are holding these bills, and they see they're losing value. I don't see the scenario you're talking about where the dollar rises in value. It's being punished to the point of ridiculousness. Every dollar that Ben prints out of thin air steals value from every other dollar that's already in circulation. So they're going to get, at one point, people are going to get sick of holding these bills. They're going to dump them by buying things, and these bills are going to come flooding back to the United States. We're going to have a currency crisis. That's what's going to spike interest rates rising. Who's going to want to hold the debt? Who's going to want to hold the dollar? Interest is the cost of money, or the cost of
All right,
cash.
hold tight. We're gonna do our last break of the program. We're gonna get back and talk about possible scenarios that can play out. Rather, we're gonna be back with Greg Mannarino, Dex from Pulse Scan 72. We're gonna be right back. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Greg Mannarino, Pulse Scan 72's Dex, General of the Black Ops Training Room. Comments going on around in there about the battle between Mannarino and the Vulcan in the chat. I saw. No, it's not that, and it's like Dex and I, we've had knockdown dragouts over the years on current situations, and it's all. And as like Greg said during the break, it's good to get these different perspectives out. But let's move on. Let's move on, because if you ask me where it comes down to a crisis that there's going to be tension between nations. Could start with the currency crisis. I personally think it will. It could start with debt loads of nations starting to implode, and then it's game on. It's game on as far as a race to the bottom in the form of financial collapse, but game over for the Federal Reserve and the central banking system. Let's agree that at some point this is coming to an end. Do we believe for 1 second? And Greg, I'm going to give this to you first because you had less time in the last segment. Do we believe for 1 second that isn't in their minds already? They know this game's going to run its course. Dex said something earlier that they have a target mind, how far to immerse the people in this nation into debt. And once they hit that, and for the rest of the world, then it's going to be pull the plug, ultimate crisis. Here's the solution, and that solution will be what, Greg Mannarino?
Well, first of all, that exact scenario is what's going to happen. I can agree with Dex 100%. At one point, this is coming down. It is going to be time to pay the piper, and they are going to offer us some solution. I'm sure that's not going to be in our best interest. I sincerely believe what's being set up here in this most basic element is a transfer of wealth, period. That's what this is all about. It's about transferring wealth from one place to another. It's a transaction. It's a trade. It's a grand trade, basically. And whatever the scenario is, believe me, I think the people are going to suffer from this. A new system has to come out of this. This one is done. It's played out. It was prosperous for a while. Unfortunately, the United States, its run is over, in my opinion, as a are we the biggest economy in the world? It was really Europe, the biggest economy in the world. By GDP, it's Europe. Then there's the United States, and then you got China. But that's a whole other thing. But what I'm trying to say is, it's such a shame what has happened here in the United States here, because this was a setup. The crash of 2008 was a setup, and they're setting this up again as a greater transfer of wealth. And they're going to create, and they are creating, a currency crisis, a currency war, I believe we're in right now. And at the end of all of it, we're going to need people here to rebuild, and that's the truth. And we got to start thinking ahead. We can't live in the moment, period.
Do you think that the grand scheme is to consolidate? Look, we can play government, right? We can play that we have control of our own destiny, and I think these power elite, they think it's cute, right? Look at them. They're voting on gay rights, and they're voting on on simple initiatives here or there, social issues here or there. But they I believe the ultimate plan is what people like Jean-Claude Trichet have been saying for years. People even like Treasury Secretary Geithner have been saying a need for a more consolidated global financial governance. I believe this is engineered, as you said, but to an end goal of, okay, you know what? It's really hit the fan, America and the rest of the world. We have carnage going in the easy resource regions of the world, embattled in war. We have starving people in the so-called developed Western world. We have this crisis, and the solution is we're gonna forget this old form of debt, but we have something new for you. And maybe it's $1, maybe it's an SDR, maybe it's whatever. It really doesn't matter. It could be wampum, but they will end up with the ultimate control of the new global financial governance. Greg and Dex.
Yeah, well, let's let Dex get this one
All
because
right.
I just got the last one.
All right. Go ahead, Dex.
At the end of the day, somebody's always going to want to rule, and the old system goes away and a new one emerges. We don't really know what the new one's going to look like. All we know is it's going to be a global tyranny. We know that ultimately they want to control everything. They want to control everything you eat, everything you, everywhere you go, everything that you do. And if they have to create a new currency that will help them to do that, then so be it. We know that that's the agenda, that's the end game. It's coming. It doesn't even matter what we think. Time frames, who knows? It's just like I said, though, I don't see really an economic collapse per se in the way that most people look at an economic collapse. The US is not going down because of some fiat currency. The only thing that's going to bring the US down is war and natural disasters or cosmic influences. That's about it. America's way too powerful just to fall. We've never been invaded or anything like that, and some anything short of that, I don't see that happening. A country's not stupid enough just to try to attack us because we have like a billion nukes. We could erase any country off the map at the push of a button. No one wants to play that kind of game. Therefore, because we are the most mighty military on the planet, people have to tread lightly when dealing with the U.S. That's why I mentioned I don't see, collapse that way. I do see mass starvation. I do see chaos and things of that nature, but not because of a currency crisis per se. Anything that we experience is going to be government initiated, not because it's something that's real, but rather something that's artificial. That's what I see. I see it's also has spiritual connotations. I mean, just look, we had the latest pope to step down. That's only happened like only one other time in human history. I mean, things happen for a reason, all to set up what's about to come. It's not a mistake. It is not a coincidence that people are starting to see more and more strange sightings, UFO sightings in broad daylight, caught on camera. News media outlets all over the world are filming these things. Look at all the crazy weather phenomenon, oceans turning into blood and all types of just wild stuff that you've never really heard or seen before. I mean, how do you explain that? How do you quantify that? How do you qualify those things? You can't debunk and say, well, it's fake. I mean, it's right in your face. Just where I'm here, here in the Maryland D.C. area, we had birds fall out the sky during rush hour. All right, on busy 95 South. I mean, you're going to say that didn't happen? Say that was all fake? No, there were people sitting in traffic when it happened. um, these things are happening. More booms and earthquake sounds, and as a result of fracking and all just weirdness, wackiness. This stuff is leading up to something, and what we're going to have is crisis. I see crisis of man's own design as well as cosmic. We're seeing meteors now more and more start to enter into our atmosphere, not just the ironic sphere, but the atmosphere. They're touching ground, they're booming, they're exploding over people, and people being injured. These things are happening more and more now.
All right, let me ask you both this, because we only have about 2 minutes left. And and Dex, I know we could go into that topic for another 2 hours, but on the realm of the financial system, Dex, it sounds like you're gonna play the market. You're gonna not play the market. You're gonna follow your model. You're gonna follow your charts, your indicators, and just play it to its fruition. And when it tells you to dump, you're gonna dump. Greg, what are you doing? Are you loading up on metal? Are you getting strategically placed for something happening sooner in the form of collapse?
Well, I'm definitely investing in metals. I'm heavily invested in metals. I'm also a trader. I trade every day. In fact, I have a new website that's designed for traders, traderschoice.net. It's free. No passwords, no signups. Anyone can look at it. You can look at my long list. You can look at my short list. It's available to anyone at any moment for absolutely nothing.
What's the name? What's the site again?
Traderschoice.net. I really hope people take advantage of it. On Monday, there was a nice sell-off in the market. I had a bunch of shorts there. People did well. I'm still short the market right now. I want to see what happens after the sequester. And I'll just like Dex says, I'm going to ride the wave. If all of a sudden the market starts to rally, well, I'll be long the market. I'm not fighting it. I'm just going with the flow to see how I can make cash, and then I take that cash and I buy real assets with it, gold and silver, more specifically silver.
Dex?
Basically, I want to leave you with this. All things being equal, if this rally continues over the next 12 months, my target for the S&P is 1798. My target for the Dow is 16,197. My target for silver is $14.58. My target for gold is $1,253.50. All things being equal, if we continue on the course that we're on right now, and for crude oil, I left that one last. My target is $143.40.
Crikey, I hope you're wrong about the metal.
Yeah, well, crude and gold, they kind of rise and fall in tandem. I don't honestly. I mean, I didn't even know that. I don't foresee any of this in any way at all. The Dow can rise to new highs at one point based upon a dollar that is plummeting, because if the dollar is weaker, it's going to take more dollars to buy assets, even shares of stock. So if the Dow is rising up that much, you're going to see metals, crude oil, and everything rise as well. If you really base the Dow against the dollar, look at the dollar index since 2002. It's in free fall. It's terminal, and this is not going to recover. It can't stop, because the Fed is printing more and more of these dollars. So nothing is equal. It's constantly changing. It's dynamic. And this entire thing is going to change. It's going to unfold in a very dangerous way, because the fly in the ointment here is the debt bubble, which I believe we're in. Dex doesn't, and that's understandable. Everyone is entitled to their own perspective on this, but that's going to be the game changer of them all.
All right, Greg Mannarino, Dex, PulseCan 72. Thanks, guys. We're already out of time. And George F. Francis coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night. Peace.